lovely day! Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum, which you should definitely join. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Chocolate Sane and Paul, along with Flatzoid, and I think that's it in the Google Plus Hangout. How are you both doing? Or how are you all doing?
Good afternoon. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Good morning.
Hello, and we're also joined by quite a few people in the Discord server. So, hey Babs, how you doing? So slick with Discord. So slick. Right, well, we're going to start as we mean to go on, so I'm hoping that you guys in the Hangout will ask a few of the housekeeping questions, and that'll spur some of the people in Discord to actually answer some questions and enter into debate. So who wants to kick us off? Flatzoid, you've got your mic open, go ahead.
Wait a second, Flatzoid, before we start. During any pre-show, I'm not saying anything ever again. Every single time that I start talking in the pre-show, I get cut off. Every single time. I'm not doing it anymore. If there's a pre-show, I'm not saying a word.
By what got cut off? By me, you mean? When I start...
Heck yeah! Every single time. I could not say anything during the beginning part of the pre-show or the middle part. But as soon as I start talking about something, and I was really into it too. I was getting back into it, right? All I heard was, welcome. So the past 3 minutes, no one heard me.
That kind of sucks.
It's only a minute and a half intro.
Every single time, man.
No,
I'm telling you, it happens.
I got a large chunk of it.
Time.
I promise. I got a large chunk of what you said.
Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead, move on.
Right, Flatzoid, do you want to kick off the housekeeping questions? You're all listening up in Discord.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Nope.
Just nothing but silence from Discord. Seriously?
Chocolate, your turn.
Fair enough. Next. Go ahead, Flatzoid.
Any signs of curvature?
No.
That's too bad, though. I mean, we live on a ball. Should have some type of curvature, right? You would think.
Globeheads.
Yeah, in reality.
Must be some signs of curvature from your fundamentalist religious belief that we're on a sphere. Seriously? Fair enough. Moving on.
Well then, any signs of axial rotation?
No from my side.
Hey Chemo, by the way. How you doing?
Good afternoon to one and all.
Do you know the housekeeping questions, Chemo? Feel free to ask one. We've had axial rotation, Earth curve, and scientific evidence of gravity so far. Do you want to ask one?
Any evidence of gas pressure without a container?
No, no, no.
Anybody? Anybody with a sphere belief? Who believes in the sky being a vacuum, known as outer space? Really? Conceded this? Thanks, Spurs.
There
That's
should
all
be
right.
one
But they
here now.
know this. They know.
We'll get into
I think
it
they
after
know
Spurs.
though by now. I think you've done a good job in highlighting what they have and what they don't have. I think it shows, you know, the work hasn't gone in vain, right? So the people now are aware of their, you know, once upon a time they didn't know where they were. You know, they thought they were on a spinning ball. Then they were confused about, well, if it's not a ball, what is the shape? And now I think people are just sort of adjusting to, you know, the reality.
Personally, I
It's just
think
a
you got it
belief.
wrong. I think once upon a time, everybody accepted the world as it was presented to them as flat and non-motionless. And then some people came along and said, hey guys, psst, the floor is actually spinning. You live on a ball. That's what happened.
Just small correction. It's either non-spinning or motionless, not non-motionless, because that would imply it's moving.
Well, I'm not
Right,
dizzy.
right.
Sorry to be pedantic.
No, it's all good.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun? I'll do one.
No apparent distance.
Nope. No measurable distance.
Got 2 more to go.
Any value for the R radius?
Any evidence of R? Anybody?
I'm asking, I mean, make no mistake, when I'm with the ball earthers, I'm asking them, how do we know the size of the ball? Is it assumed? Do we have an actual measurement? And then they started to talk in degrees. So I asked, how do you put a protractor on a ball? And their heads just went, and everything just went into chaos. So they said, you have to imagine putting the degrees on the ball. They said, literally, I have to imagine how you would put the degrees on the ball and work it out like this. It's not something you can do in reality. So, you know, it's not like we're not asking. We are asking. We are seeking answers from these guys. But a lot of it is in their head. Like, it's what they imagine. So we have to imagine what they imagine. So if we can imagine that the Earth is 25,000 miles all the way around, well, it's not difficult to imagine the sun being 93 million miles away, right? And things like that. But again, that's the imagination, not reality.
And that's where the globe lives, in the imagination.
You guys hear me now?
Oh, Babs,
Hey,
hey.
what's
We hear
How's
you.
it going? Yeah, I was muted for the longest time ever. Sorry about
Well, we hear you now. Got one last housekeeping question. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Nope.
That concludes the housekeeping.
What I wanted to say, Dave, I was going to ask you the other day. You know, we say things are obviously obvious, observably. So, when it comes to things like design, is it obvious and observably whether something is designed or created, in your opinion?
Is it obviously
What do you
and
respond to that?
observably designed and created? Is that what you're saying?
I'm asking, how would you see it? Do you see it that things are not obviously created, or they are obviously?
Yeah,
Is
there's
it obvious
a way
now?
you can tell. It's called functional sequence specified complexity.
There you go. There's your answer.
Yeah, go back to the creator versus atheism presentation, and you'll be and I have a little section on that. It's proof number 4. And then come back and we can talk
I'm
about it.
saying to Nathan, does Nathan think things are obvious that they're created, or it's not obvious to Nathan that things are created?
What?
How does he see it? Does he look at something like a tree and say that's random, or it's obvious something created that? I don't know. I'm just asking him what his opinion is.
Well,
John,
okay.
that was when you were talking. You had the sand dune, like the sand dunes, and then the sand castle, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that part.
Yeah, I get you.
I mean,
But I'm saying to Nathan,
okay,
if
I'm
you're
trying to
saying that the
answer.
Earth is obviously and observably flat, that's fine. But now when it comes to things being created, is it obvious that something is created, or do you think, that's not created?
I think if I was asked how did it all begin, in other words, it came down to the ontological primitives, I'd say we've got a creator. Everything didn't spontaneously come out of existence from nothing. So creator would be the side that I fall on this, in that regard. Where did it all begin?
Well, that was it. That was all. Yeah. So it's creator, obviously created now. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my answer
Right.
to based on the ontological primitives and the demonstrations given by quantum principles.
That's then not obvious, is it? If you have to demonstrate it,
I wouldn't say it's obvious, no.
and that it's not obviously and observably created to you.
Once you understand certain things, then it becomes obvious, but to your average Joe, no.
Okay. Well, that was it. That was it. Or that was all. That was all.
I mean, when I say obviously and observably flat, that term is born out of people seeing a building, and we say, as flat earthers, building, i.e. there is no explanation required whatsoever. Well, why? Well, because it's obviously and observably flat. Now, their counter-argument to that is that it's a slightly looming, non-standard refraction, hyena, holographic projection of a building behind Earth curve, loomed up to the horizon in perfect proportion so that you can see it presented as a hologram. That's their explanation. We say building. So, in those arguments, the flat earthers are always going to win from Occam's razor point of view. Which one are you going to believe, right? Obviously and observably flat, there's a building, I can see it, or there's a building but it's not really there, it's actually hidden by Earth curve and being projected up by a rate of a presupposed radius based on a presupposed model being reified into existence. There's a lot of bullshit that goes along with these pictures from their side, right, Spurs? know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it was just I just wanted the opinion. It's interesting. But yeah, that's right. Yeah, from the observations we make compared to what they tell us, that's what they obviously say is not clear. What we see is what we see. Yeah.
And I'm so glad Nathan brought that point up, because I have a question about that I wanted to ask him.
Ask me.
So
Nathan.
yeah, I want to ask you a question.
Fine, go ahead.
Right. So with these observations, where we're able to see things at a distance that we're not supposed to see. So would you say that that's like a fraction of the Earth that we're looking at?
Well, the first problem I've got is with your phraseology. So you said not supposed to see. Based on what?
Based on the curve calculator and what's supposed to be hidden by the curvature of the Earth.
So immediately you're into two fallacies, begging the question and reification fallacies. Immediately, just in your example. So your question is immediately flawed because you're asking me to explain why something is there when according to a model it shouldn't be. Well, I don't live on that model, so I don't have to reify a model and then claim what the model says should or shouldn't be there. I just see it. That would be my answer to that.
Okay. Right. So in these observations, what would be the point of doing them in the first place? Because aren't you looking for a specific type of result when you do these observations?
Well, the further the better in that regard, I suppose. If you're a flat earther making these observations, which I'm not, but I would assume that the further you can see, the better your example is.
Right. So the point that I'm making is, with these observations that we're making, what percentage of the Earth are we looking at in these observations?
I don't really understand your question. When you say what percentage of the Earth, do you mean given the total mass of the total area, of Earth, what percentage of it are we looking at?
Just to avoid a reification fallacy, because I don't want to assume that we actually know what size the Earth is. I'm just saying hypothetically.
I understand. I'll bite. I'll say a very, very, very small percentage. Presumably that's where you're trying to lead me, right?
Exactly right. So the problem that I have with these observations is that we're looking at a very small percentage of the Earth, and we're basing the entire Earth on that small percentage. So is it really an accurate deduction to say that the Earth is flat just because this percentage of the Earth looks flat? That's not the whole Earth that you're looking at. You're just looking at a small percentage of it.
No, I mean, obviously
you're not looking at the whole Earth.
I would take fluid dynamics into account first and foremost. So big shout out to Beyond the Imaginary Curve. Water proves it's flat.
Okay, but still though, you're looking at water in a small percentage of the Earth. You're not looking at the entire Earth.
No.
So to say that the whole Earth looks like this 1% that I'm looking at, is that really is that a fair statement to make?
No, I wouldn't expect somebody to come to the show, see one picture, and be converted to the obvious and observable nature of our reality. For me, when I heard the term flat Earth uttered by Math Powerland, I instantaneously recognised the reality that I was living in. But that was because I'd travelled all over the world as a rep. So I'd seen a vast percentage of the flat ground that we dwell atop. So for me, it wasn't anything to do with these pictures. They're completely surplus to requirement. Or, I don't know if redundant's the right word. For me personally, they're redundant.
Right. Yeah, and I agree with that. But at the same time, this is the same thing that the ballers are doing, because if they're not able to show us Earth in its entirety, they only rely on measurements that are done on fractions of the Earth. So the problem that I have with that is, we're not looking at Earth in its entirety, and there's only one or like a small group of people that are presenting to us images of what the whole Earth looks like. And
yeah, I can agree. I can agree with you. To make the affirmative position, it's very, very difficult. But we can tell you what it's not. Now, loads of globe heads hate this. You're just debunking the globe. Well, yeah. If you can dismiss the idea that it's curving in any way, shape or form, that's essentially what you're left with, but by way of logical deduction. Well, that requires somebody to logically deduce it, and it's not... I forget who was asking me about things being obvious spurs earlier. Well, no, is that bit obvious? No. It is in a given image, though. I can make that statement about a particular image because it's true for that image, in context.
Right. In context, it is true for the image, but it's not an accurate representation of the entire Earth, because it could be any shape. It definitely isn't what is being presented to us by the mainstream narrative. But as far as it being flat, I mean, I'm leaning more towards a flat Earth, but just to make that deduction without having sufficient or substantial evidence is a problem for me.
Like I say,
can you say that again? Could you say that one more time? Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Sorry about that. Could you say that one more time?
Sorry, that was a little bit of word salad there. What I was trying to say is that, like, making a deduction of what Earth looks like based off a small percentage that you're looking at, I feel is not an accurate representation of Earth.
What would you like?
I mean, I wouldn't like anything, because I'm still trying to figure things out. It's just that I'm wondering if there's any way we were able to see Earth in its entirety. Like, is that something that's possible?
I don't I don't think so. The best answer would say I don't know, but I don't think we can. I don't think we can get up high enough.
I would
But
agree.
that's just an opinion. You know, I can't empirically confirm that.
Right, because that's the only way we'd be able to know, you know, what Earth really looks like. Because if not, we're just going to have to rely on these observations. And just from what I said, I just feel like it's not an accurate way of deducing the shape of the Earth.
Well, like Nathan said, we know what it's definitely not.
Yeah, we know what it's not exactly. Yeah, and we're just trying to figure out what it is.
It's not a spinning ball in a vacuum with a circumference of 25,000 miles. It's just not. We've already debunked that. It's over.
No.
It was over in 2015. This is just cleanup.
Right, but when you say that. When you say that it's flat, then you know you've already taken a disposition. Like people are going to think of a specific model when you say that, and you're going to have to defend that model.
No, we
that, that can be problematic.
No we way. Don't. Whoa. I'll take this, John. No
okay.
problem. So no, we here. I speak for, I hope, many members of the panel in this regard. We don't have a model. And the reason is because models, as I said initially in response to your first question, models are pseudoscience. We don't live on a model. Now, I understand your position, which is to say that many a flat earther will declare the azimuthal equidistant globe projection as their flat earth model, which would imply shape because you can reify it, you can physically print it out, you can turn it into a little model and put lights over it with a little dome and sell it at conferences. Now, that is not my model. That's a papier-mâché physical model of something that's nothing to do with my Earth as far as I'm concerned, because that particular model, for a start, is a global projection, and we don't live on a model. So I would
and we don't know, but when you're declaring that it's flat, you're declaring a model.
No, we're not. What model have I declared? By saying it's obviously and observably flat.
Flat model.
I never said flat model, though.
Okay, well, show me this model that I've declared, apparently.
Have him define
You're the one that's making the declaration.
I'm not. I'm saying it's flat.
Define. No, wait a second. You said model. What is a model? Are you talking about a runway model? Are you talking about a computer model? An architecture model? What do you mean when you say model?
It could either be computerized or like an actual like model that you can hold in your hands, but we don't have that here. But when you're saying flat, like that's a shape, is it not?
No. Yeah, but I want to get back to this model. It's not a scientific model, right? So
no, it isn't.
We don't have a scientific model. Neither do they. Ask the globe earthers what their model is. Tell them to show it to you.
You are claiming a shape, though.
Flat's
You're
not a shape.
claiming that it's a specific shape.
What shape is flat?
Level.
It's flat.
That's not a shape. Level's not a shape.
Level, yeah.
That's not a shape. This is a good point, though. What's your name, sorry?
Babs.
Babs, this is a very good point. Because the way our world is described to us is to imply, as you put it, a shape. And, well, I don't... Yeah. I struggle to conceptualise the place I live with a shape. Now, I understand that there's plenty of people around me who call themselves flat earthers that will literally show you a model and, in some cases, try and sell it you. Literally, for pounds and pence. Yeah. But that's not something I buy into. You know, I can't physically comprehend Earth having a shape. That's not something that's in my cognition anymore. So when we argue globe shape versus reality, well, the reality I'm presented with is just flat in overall context of what I've experienced, having flown over a probably very small percentage of it. You know, it's still not a great deal, but I'd like to think I've seen enough for me to, you know, be confident in my assertions. But shape, I don't know. I don't perceive the place we live as a shape.
Generally, to answer your question, what shape is flat? When people think about flat, they think level, and it has to be, I guess, in relationship to something else. Like it has to have an observer to determine, like its orientation, if that makes sense.
That's still not a shape.
If it's not a shape, then what is that? What's flat? What does that mean?
Well, I can only describe the place I live, and you know, at the beginning of the last show, we were talking about the sun, and we end up with people just describing the observably obvious. Well, that's why I have the phrasing obviously and observably flat. All I'm going to do is describe the world that you experience, and the world we experience is flat, but that's not a shape.
Right. But just to labor on one of the points that you made earlier on, something that the Globers do is when we're able to see things far away in the distance that we shouldn't be able to see, that's when they have to come up with explanations as to why that's possible, like super looming or superior mirages and stuff like that. So when we have that same problem when we say that that the Earth is flat, because when the Globers start saying that certain things are being obstructed in the distance, and we have to explain how that's working on a flat surface, we need to come up with similar sort of explanations to them, just to explain what we're seeing.
Hold on, let me take this. No. Okay, so no, you don't. When we're saying about how we want to see the debate going forward, we say we want people to make a claim, offer their support, and then somebody rebut it. It's as simple as that. So if somebody was to put in front of you an image like the one that's on screen now. Now I'm going to pick this deliberately because it's kind of not contentious, it kind of is, but I'll keep the contentious bit away from it. Why?
That's the image on the YouTube page.
Oh, you can't see. It's just a picture of the sun.
I can see it. I'm on YouTube right now.
Perfect. So you can see that the sun's got this little bit at the bottom above the hard line called the horizon. Now, if I ask you to explain that on a globe for the sake, or explain that on a hexagon, right? You'd go, why? Why do I have to explain it? And I go, because I just say you must explain this. There's no necessity to explain anything unless you're either making an affirmative claim about it. So for the sake of argument, when I look at this boat and it's got a mouth, now I could demand that you explain that on a model. I could add that into the as a caveat.
That's rational, yeah. That is rational to ask for an explanation for that.
Okay, well, tell me this. Why do the sunflowers in the middle of my bed, my flower bed outside, why have they not grown when the ones on the outside edges have? Go, explain it in detail on a globe. Go.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't have the answer to that.
Why not? I demand that you answer it on a globe. Can't you answer this on a globe? Then my sunflowers prove a flat Earth. You can't explain this.
How could I possibly know that?
And how could I possibly...
Yeah, like how would I possibly know like that happened?
Why is it reasonable for you to just tell me that you're not going to explain some nonsense claim I'm making, but when it comes to a flat Earth claim with some picture of something, I should suddenly have to have an explanation for it as a flat Earther? Why is that? Why is it acceptable for you to just say, no, I'm not explaining that nonsense on a globe, but I should have to explain it on a flat Earth? Why?
It's because you've declared that the ground that we're on is flat, so you're going to have to explain why things are being obstructed on a flat surface.
I would have to explain why things are being... sorry, if you present a picture, I would say, what's your claim regarding this picture? Because it's not my picture, it's not my claim. And if you come along and say, why is this happening in this picture? I don't know, I'm not bloody Cluedo. I haven't got a clue. And why should I explain it? It doesn't change the world that I present when I do present my evidence and back my claims with evidence. That's me making an affirmative claim with evidence. But if you come along and shove something under my nose and go debunk this, I'll just say no. What's your claim? What does it prove? And you go, it's obstructed. Yeah, I can see that in the picture. What's it prove? And you go, well, it's obstructed by Earth curve. And I go, oh, right, back to the original question you asked me, Babs. Why is so much missing based on a model? Well, then the claim that follows from the person demanding I explain it uses a reification fallacy and a begging the question fallacy. I just laugh at that and go, this proves nothing. Certainly doesn't prove your point that we live on a sphere. So I haven't had to explain anything, and I've taken a giant dump on the claim that's come from the other side. They say there's an obstruction. Well, why is it obstructed? I don't know. That's my answer. I haven't got a clue.
Wait a second. This is just a shifting the burden of proof fallacy. This is fallacious. You said it was rational, Babs. This is a fallacy. You don't make a claim and then ask somebody to explain it. I mean, that makes no sense. What am I going to go up to the gas station?
I didn't make the claim. You guys made the claim. I didn't make it.
I'm not done yet. How is that rational? I go up to the gas station and I ask a complete stranger to explain this claim that I have. I mean, that's preposterous.
Because you've made a claim and you need to explain the claim that you made.
Yeah, yes.
You need to be able to demonstrate the claim that you're making.
Right. So when you put a picture under my nose, it's your claim that it's being obstructed by Earth curve. Now, if you just put it under my picture and say, why is this obstructed? I go, I don't know. And I'm not making any claim. I'm saying, I haven't got a clue. Have you got I'd start asking you a few questions about, have you got all of the temperatures? Have you got the air temperature, the water temperature? Do you know how heavy the boat was? All of those sorts of things. I could ask all those questions and see if I could come up with a ad hoc explanation for a random picture that you show me. But it's really kind of meaningless. But when you put the picture on and then make a claim, I'll pull the claim apart based on what evidence you provide to support your claim. But shoving something under my nose... Go on.
Hasn't that already happened? Haven't people already made observations and made claims in relation to the observations that they've made?
Absolutely.
For example, isn't that where the diffraction limit came from?
Yeah,
the reason why we're not able to see things, or things get obstructed from the bottom up due to a diffraction limit. Wasn't that made on the premise of someone going out and doing observations and presenting them as a flat earther?
Yes, brave souls that they are. People who go out and put their neck on the line, making affirmative claims, often from a reasonable position of incredulity. They don't actually know what's causing the effect. They haven't verified it with scientific experimentation, but they'll make the claim anyway, often just to see what the reaction is, to see if it leads to a more conclusive actual point being made, or a discovery that's already in existence, it's just not highlighted, like the diffraction limit. So yeah, these things have come off the back of flat earthers going out and making positive assertions and having them rebutted. So yeah, there's going to be plenty of pictures flashing by here that started off life with somebody saying, this proves it's flat. Now me, when that happens, I suck my teeth. What have you done to validate that claim, my friend? Because it's going to get debated about, but that's what the show's all about. And it has progressed information. But going forward, do I want to make positive assertions based on very limited data? Probably not, but plenty of people have, yes.
Right.
Babs, can I ask you a question?
Well, I mean,
Just let Babs respond and then you can go ahead, Chocolate. Go ahead, Babs.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm happy that Nathan actually clarified that for me, because I was under the impression that, you know, he accepted the explanations that were provided for bottom-up obstruction. I was under the impression that he accepted those explanations and wasn't skeptical about that. But go ahead, Chocolate.
Well, let me just respond to that first. There is a list made by a guy called Tim Osman, or goes by the name of Tim Osman, of all different things that can cause demonstrably bottom-up obstruction. Now, there's a whole list of them. Now, in order to verify what actually causes the bottom-up obstruction in a given photo, you'd have to do a huge amount of testing to rule out all of the things that you've got as a potential independent variable. So one by one, you'd have to go through them and try and validate them. Now, in the case of a given picture, you'd never come to a single independent variable that's going to cause the effect. There's an enormous amount of factors that could be taken into consideration. Now, that's not to say that you can't isolate down a given set of those circumstances and put them all under control and only vary one to cause an effect. But what you would essentially be building your way to is the theory of whatever effect that you can find if it's a natural phenomena. For example, this sun on screen. So what we are seeing, that effect, could be described as a natural phenomena, but you've got to try and figure out the cause of it. Now, does that mean that along the way you'll find incremental things that cause an effect, but isn't the overall picture? Of course, but that's when you get to scientific theory. Well, we're at the stage now where we're way past baseless assertions about pictures we take, but we have established that there's a million and one different things that can cause these effects. Now, we'll detail them and how they work and give demonstrations of them. Those have all been done, there's playlists made, and people can see that these are real effects being caused by X. But does that mean that I will assert that specific one thing when there's a photo on screen? Hell no. I'll just point out to the person, normally a fundamentalist religious zealot, who says it's Earth curve, their single cause. I'll ask them to validate that cause. And they can't. They're never going to vary and manipulate that which they assume is causing the effect in the picture. And neither can I, because I'm not going to go through the effort of isolating every single effect that can cause what we see in a picture. There's just too many. Miles too many.
Just to confirm what you're saying here right now, because I was a little bit unclear about a statement that you made earlier. So do you agree with some of the explanations for why things are obstructed on a flat Earth? And why doesn't it bother you when you see things that contradict your initial hypothesis?
I haven't made any hypothesis, but give me an example of the contradiction. We'll start with that first. So what's contradicting what?
For example, if my hypothesis is that the Earth is demonstrably and observably flat, but when I make an observation and I see bottom-up obstruction, that's a contradiction.
Why is it?
My initial hypothesis.
That's not a hypothesis, by the way.
Yeah, it's not a hypothesis, but why is that a contradiction?
It's a contradiction because it doesn't match your initial claim. Because on a flat surface...
No, that's only a contradiction because it's going against what you were told the reasoning behind the bottom-up disappearance is. Right?
It's also an affirming the consequence.
I don't know what the reason is. I don't know what the reason is. I haven't said that I know what the reason
you have,
is.
though. In your questioning, the way you phrased it right at the start, we're back to this again, was how much shouldn't be there. So you're saying bottom-up obstruction. Well, immediately what you're saying is one thing is in front of another, but the very thing that's obstructing, in air quotes, is a position that's an apparent location. So the obstruction, in air quotes, is being caused by the apparent position where the sky meets the ground, or you could call it the vanishing point, right? So you're saying things at the vanishing point have disappeared. I don't see an issue with this until you say there's so much missing because of a model.
Exactly, and that's what we clarified initially, that I was making a reification fallacy. But just to make things clear, I'm not a glober, so I'm not working with a predisposed idea in my mind. I'm just trying to figure out why certain things don't match your initial hypothesis. And to answer what John said, that this isn't a hypothesis, isn't a hypothesis a supposition or proposed explanation made on the basis of limited evidence as a starting point for further investigation? So by saying that the Earth is
Wrong.
observably flat, isn't that a hypothesis?
Wrong. Tell him, Nathan.
Well, no, you're
How is it wrong?
Well, because you're trying to establish with the hypothesis the cause of an effect. So the Earth is flat is not an effect.
Oh, but this is not a cause and effect relationship.
Then it's not a hypothesis.
Used
You
in
just
cause and
answered
effect
your own
relationship.
question.
So yeah, but you're saying hypothesis. This isn't a hypothesis. That's the bottom line.
You
But-
said he already said that
What
it's
would
not a
you
cause
say
and
it
effect.
is, a
Hold on.
declaration?
You said it's not a cause and hold on. You said it's not a cause and effect relationship. Ipso facto, it can't be a hypothesis. You just contradicted yourself.
A hypothesis only applies to cause and effect relationships.
Yeah.
You betcha.
Yes.
Okay. So this would be more of a declaration than a hypothesis.
Right.
Got that right.
Yeah. Declaration of fact. Earth is obviously and observably flat.
But when you're presented with things that contradict your declaration, why isn't that concerning to you?
Get specific. Get specific.
Hold on, John.
Go ahead.
I've already asked you what's contradicted me, and you've said stuff disappearing and being, quote, obstructed. And I said, what, at the vanishing point? Well, that's not a contradiction to me. That falls perfectly and logically in line with my reality. Things at the vanishing point, vanishing, shock, horror, not a contradiction to me. Anything else that I should be appalled by?
Define vanishing point.
The point things vanish. Did you hear me?
That things vanish.
The point that things vanish?
That's something that only applies to these specific types of observations that we're doing here?
No.
Or is it something that applies to nature in general?
Yeah, everything will have a vanishing point. It's also known as the angular limitation of an individual item. Its angular limitation is absolute and always applies. So, yes.
Okay.
No contradiction.
However, you did say that there's several reasons why we're seeing these effects taking place. So, does a vanishing point? Can the vanishing point be attributed to all these effects that we're seeing, or is it something that's separate from that?
You have to get specific. What effects?
Okay, I'm trying not to make declarations here, but I'm gonna have to. Like when we're seeing mirages and things like those, is that something that only takes place at the vanishing point?
No.
It doesn't, right?
No, you can have mirages that aren't taking place at the diffraction limit. But that is another effect.
Right, and mirages. Exactly, and mirages do appear to obstruct things in certain situations. I'm trying to avoid using these terminologies because I don't have examples to present, and I know you're going to ask me for that.
No, maybe not. This is fine. Don't worry. I'm not going to put you on the spot and demand that you present some mirage evidence to prove that it's something that exists. I'm confident that it does.
However, do you agree with what I'm saying, that in some situations we have seen obstruction that has happened due to miraging?
Yeah, I mean, when you say obstruction again, you're talking about something that's obstructed by what?
It's not literally obstructing it, it just appears to be obstructing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these examples in the globe world specifically require a reification of this arbitrary designation of horizon to the position where it appears the sky meets the ground. that position will be called Earth curve or hump or whatever you like. The point that Earth blocks your view, well, that is an obstruction, a physical thing in front of something else. But it's only applicable at the point where things are their smallest. And when they're not, we've gone through explanations, not necessarily applicable in every single instance, where the diffraction limit is more applicable against the deck because you have a more limited angle. So things disappearing bottom up into the vanishing point, I understand why it happens. I've done it myself with my own equipment, and I'm satisfied that that is a thing. You know, it's not something that's going to go away in a hurry, and I just now understand how to explain it in a reasonably concise way. So those are real effects. Can I specifically, like a lot of globers want me to, pin one thing that contrasts a reification of Earth curve as the cause of any effect in a picture where something, as you put it, is obscured? Well, no, I can't. There's going to be a million different things that could possibly be causing that. But I know what it's not. I know that the point where the ground appears to meet the sky isn't the leading edge of a reified model. I know what it's not.
Right. But how is this different from what the Globers are doing? For example, they have a reification model that they're working with. So when we're able to see things based on their model that we shouldn't be able to see, and they're forced to explain, you know, why that's happening with all their different terminologies. Isn't that the same thing that's going on here? Because we're sort of making a declaration, and when we're presented with things that are contradictory to that declaration, we have to explain, you know, what's going on. Instead of just saying that we see it because we see it, we have to explain, you know, why it's being quote unquote obstructed. How is that different from what the Globers are doing? Because they do the exact same thing.
It isn't. You're absolutely correct, and my hat is off to people like Ranty Flat Earth. They do it all the time, and I'm one of the people who is challenging what they assert as a cause of an effect. So, you know, they come under the most stick because they're the ones sticking their neck out, not me. I'll challenge it, and I do. Doesn't matter what side you're on. So yeah, those people are doing exactly the same thing. The only difference being that they don't have to reify a model in order to make their assertions. They can just make an assertion based on study of effects and them matching up with what they see in their lens. Now, is that definitive? No. Is it logically sound? Yeah. Can you agree with it once an explanation's been given? Yeah. Or you can apply your fundy belief and say, no, that's not happening at the vanishing point, diffraction limit, whatever you want to call it. That's actually my Earth curve that's getting in the way. At which point, well, you're dealing with a zealot. You can't give any explanation to that person because they've only got one cause, and that's always going to be the cause. So the fact that we've got 20 is just going to have the effect that it has, which is them listing them off going, we just say this is Earth curve, simple and true, average down to one fundy belief. What's that you say? What is it today? Angle of attack? Ha ha ha. What is it tomorrow? Dirty air? Yeah. Okay. Well, fine to make that assertion because people have made those claims.
What they're looking for, Nathan, I was going to ask, they want an equation for why things... So they have a number, don't they, of distance, and like Babs is saying, they can go back to their calculator and calculate what should be missing, how much of the building should be missing. So... I mean, I don't know. Do we say to them, disregard mathematics, numbers? You can't calculate how things disappear on a flat Earth bottom up.
Well, the equations only describe. Number one.
No,
number two, you don't know all the variables. See, you're out of context because we're looking for explanations, not descriptions. And you don't know all the variables anyway. In every single observation that I've seen, globe Earth observation, you don't know all the variables. You don't know what you don't know. And the things that you do know, you can't encapsulate all of them into a single equation. It's impossible. It wouldn't tell you anything anyway.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm asking. So it's kind of telling the ball earthers, forget about numbers, mathematics. You cannot have an equation for this model. That's what they're asking for. That's what they're looking for. A consistent number that gives them the same results kind of every time.
So you're looking for an equation for reification fallacy. Good luck.
Have an
Babs, real
equation
quick,
for their
you
model
there?
that doesn't work.
Say again, Babs.
I think Chocolate wanted to say something. He wanted to.
Oh,
He's
totally
been wanting
forgot.
to say something for a
Well
while
done,
now.
Babs.
So.
Sorry, Chocolate. You've been hanging there for ages, probably cursing me. I'm sorry, I forgot you.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Just like a quick thought experiment. I wanna share with Babs. Like, okay, so you were talking about burden of proof before, right? Now, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it's real simple to me. Like when we say the Earth is obviously and observably flat, it's just an observation. That's what the world is presented. That's how it presents itself to us, all of us. You know, none of us are just walking around on the streets seeing curvature, feeling movement, right? So the way I see it is like if take it like you have never heard of the globe, never heard rotation, anything, and you're standing outside in the street, and somebody walks up to you and says to you, "Hey, did you know that the Earth is spinning?" And you say to him, "Well, no, I've never observed any spinning or rotation or movement of any type." And this guy insists that yes, it is moving. It's definitely spinning. We're definitely orbiting. All of that, right? You ask this guy, can he feel or notice or has he observed any of this movement, this rotation, any of it? He tells you no. This is something that somebody else told him, right? Now he turns around and tells you that you have to prove to him that the earth is not moving. Do you think that that's right? Or should the burden of proof be on him who came by and told you, while minding your own business, that the floor you're standing on is actually spinning? Is it not on him to prove to you that that's what's happening?
Exactly. You made my point quite beautifully there, actually, because when you're making declarations, then the burden of proof is on you.
Exactly. So if somebody comes up to me and tells me the floor I'm standing on is spinning, yet when I ask him, have you seen it? Have you felt it? Have you observed it in any way? And he says, no, this is something somebody just told me and I'm telling you. Well, you're going to have to go prove that to me because we're both standing here. None of us observe it. None of us feel it. But you're telling me a story now? You have to prove that story to me.
That's the perspective of a globe denier. But if you're making a declaration that the Earth is flat, don't you need to prove that?
The
You're
problem
making a
is
declaration.
that to that specific person, they haven't. Remember what I said. When you ask this person, have they observed it themselves? Have they felt it? Have they seen any type of movement, anything? They say no. So it's just a story that they were told, and now they are coming by and telling you this story, the same story, right? When you both can
Exactly, and
say
the
you have
burden
never
is on
felt it,
them.
never observed it. So now it's up to him to come to you and prove that to you.
Hold on,
It's not
Babs.
on you. Go ahead.
I just want to shout out Earth is Seriously Flat. Share this channel to all children and destroy the globe. Shout out to Earth is Seriously Flat for the super chat. Thank you very much. Sorry, do you want to respond to that, Babs? Not the super chat shout out.
Yeah, because this is not really a globortion right now. But yeah, I mean, it's like the burden of proof is on the person that's making the claim. I don't know why you're not seeing that, because if you're making a declaration that the Earth is flat, don't you need to prove that? For the same reason that the globers need to prove their model, because they're claiming that we're on a globe, so they have to prove it. It's the same thing with us.
Yeah, I already did. Watch
Hold on,
last week.
Hold on,
Number
John.
one.
Hold on, John.
Number two.
Hold on.
No,
Hold
no.
on. Chocolate, do you want to respond to that?
No, I get what you mean, but like I said before, it's what I observed. It's observable. It's obvious that it's flat and it's not moving. Now, if somebody wants to convince me otherwise, they're going to have to prove it to me. Okay? Especially when that person himself will tell me he hasn't noticed movement, he hasn't felt any type of spinning or rotation, hasn't observed, has no type of absolute proof that it's moving, and you're going to come tell me that the floor I'm standing on is moving? No, you got to prove that to me. I'm sorry.
I kind of get what Babs is saying.
Yeah, I'm going to summarize it, Spurs. Hold on, Spurs. Hold on. So what Babs is saying to you, Chocolate, is there's an affirmative claim being made, and I see it, speaking on your behalf and hopefully summarising what you're saying, but as there being the support for the claim. So I'm going to let you have your say in a second, Babs, but you're saying Earth is flat. Well, that would be the claim, but the support for the claim is contained within the statement, obviously and observably. In other words, those descriptions of what would be required for you to do, go and have a look at it, is part of the claim itself. So the support is in there, observably flat.
Yeah. Wait, so what if I'm like I described in the...
Hold on, Chocolate. I want Babs to respond to you.
I'm sorry.
I took your thunder a little bit. I can't help it. I'm really sorry. Go on, Babs.
You did represent my point very well. Nathan. But isn't the scientific method the premise of this whole show? And just doing observations, I know this isn't a cause and effect relationship we're looking at, but like, isn't that pseudoscience to just make an observation and declare that the Earth is observably flat just from my observations?
No, unless
like,
you haven't. No, if I state it's scientifically proven to be flat, then that would be easily pulled apart as pseudoscientific. But if I show you a table, you're in my lounge standing next to me, and I go, that's obviously and observably a table right there, are you going to go, pseudoscience?
No, because it's obvious.
Right, well, obviously and observably flat.
Right, and in my example, I never said I know scientifically. You understand? I just said, as a matter of fact, I started it off with if somebody who never heard of the globe, never knew I was spinning, and somebody came to me and told me the world you live on is a ball that's spinning. Right? I've never claimed scientific evidence of it. I'm just stating the obvious and observable. Get what I mean?
Babs, if you say to someone the Earth is curving, that's a phenomena that we don't see every day. So that's where we would need science, because it's like, well, what do you mean? Explain. How are you going to verify that what we don't see regularly?
No, that's not right.
But do you
just about to round out the live show, Spurs? And you've made me make... I'm going to go over the hour now because of that. No, correction. If you make the assertion that the Earth is a sphere, that's not declaring cause and effect either. What actually happens is Globehead comes along like Babs described, slaps down a picture, and then either reverses the burden of proof, which is actually the example he made, but more importantly, they assert a causal relationship. Why is the building being obscured? That's the effect they're claiming. And then the reason, cause, is Earth curve. Well, that absolutely falls under the category of science. That's why we would demand at that stage scientific evidence. Now, us making a...
No, that's not right. If we see a building being obscured, that's not a phenomena, is it? We understand things are obscured because they are obstructed. But now, if someone is saying,
Go ahead, Kimo. I'm agreeing with you. Go ahead.
I'm thinking this is not a phenomena here. So usually, when we see things obstructed, like over a hill, we understand why the reason is. So now, you know, this is a phenomenon now. We're saying that there is curvature here, but we don't observe. Something's happening that people don't usually see. So to us, or to me, that's like, whoa, the Earth's curving. So now this is where you would have to test this or demonstrate this.
Okay, we'll deal with this in the after show. Earth curve is not a phenomena, but we'll deal with it in the after show. A massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you who've tuned in on the Nathan Oakley live stream for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum, which you should definitely join. Stay tuned if you are watching on the Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream, as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, a massive thanks to all of today's live panel, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!